Hi, my name is Nathan. I'm a sophomore at Chapman University studying data analytics, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to drive a stick shift. It's going to be about a 5-minute long video with a few different steps along the way and a clear explanation of the steps and how to do it, because I think it's a wonderful skill and I think more people need to learn how to do it. And I personally learned in my friend's Honda Fit on the way to go pick up this car that I'm driving in the video, which is a Honda Civic Si. So it's a little bit of a stressful situation, so I recommend not putting yourself in my shoes. But enjoy the video, and let me know if you have any concerns or comments, and I'll reply back to you. Have a good one. And so the first thing I recommend is getting to an open parking lot with as few obstacles as possible, and just so you can focus on the mechanics of getting going and maybe shifting a few gears and not having to worry about hitting anything or doing any damage to the car or to other surroundings. So to begin with, there's a few basic mechanics of driving a stick shift that you should know before getting right into it. To begin with, when you sit down in a manual car, you'll notice that the gear shifter looks a little bit different from an automatic, and if you peek at the floor, you'll notice that there is another pedal to the left of the brake pedal. This is the clutch pedal. You can play with the motion of the pedal, moving it back and forth to see where the pedal has pressure and how it pushes back at you. The way that manual transmission cars work is that you physically shift the gears using the clutch and the stick shift. Essentially, you have two big discs that are rubbing against each other to move the car. This one is rotating at the speed of the engine, and this one is rotating for the transmission. When you use a stick shift car, your goal is to make the transmission side start to rotate by using the clutch, which is, when it's fully depressed, pulls the plates apart, and when you start to let the clutch come back to its resting position, you connect these two plates. There's a point in the clutch where the plates start to touch, and this is called the bite point. Okay, now here comes the fun part. When getting into a car, there's a few things that you need to do before you can get going. The first is to adjust the seat so that you can fully depress the clutch with your leg not being fully straight, and there should be a comfortable bend. For me, this is really close to the seat. Next is to get used to the stick shift, fully press the clutch in, then look at the gear shifter. The basic pattern is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth if your car has a 6-speed. Then is the middle neutral, and reverse can be either in a few places, but it's generally up or down from the left or the right of the shift. Play around with the downshifting and upshifting through the gears and possibly jumping a gear or two, and you should get to a point where you can just place your hand on the shifter and know exactly what gear you're in and how to get to the next gear without looking. Now that you understand the patterns, with the clutch fully depressed still, put the car into neutral, and then turn the car on like normal. You can let the clutch off if the gear is in neutral and your car will not go anywhere, if the parking brake is on as well. Hold down the brake, turn off the parking brake, and then press the clutch in to go into first gear. Let off the brake, give a very small amount of accelerant, and slowly start to let off the clutch until you feel the car start to move. At this point, you can slowly release it until the car gets into gear. This is a very feeling-based thing, and will take a few attempts for you to actually get it to work. Expect to stall. If you stall, that means the engine stopped spinning and died because it tried to connect the transmission too low of a speed or too fast of a speed. If you stall, you can press the clutch fully in and start the car up again. When you are in gear, the accelerator and the brake work like a normal automatic car. The only difference is when coming to a stop, if you let off the accelerator, the car will slow, but not all the way. To stop all the way, you need to press the brake and the clutch fully in before you stop the car, or the car will jerk and stall. Get used to the stopping and starting a few times so you get the hang of starting in first gear. If you got this, you basically know how to drive a stick shift. Now, when you get into first gear and are moving by pressing on the accelerator, your car will start to rev very high, very quickly. This is because first gear is only made to get the car going. What happens next is shifting up a gear. This will drop the revs of the car and make the car drive with a little bit less torque because it's a lower gear or a taller gear ratio. To shift the gear, you push the clutch in all the way, shift into second gear, then let off the clutch, just a little bit faster than getting into first gear. This process repeats for each gear up to 5th or 6th gear. So to park, again come to a stop at the brake, press down on the clutch to make sure the car won't stall, and then to park, leave the shifter into neutral, and then put on the parking brake. You can now turn off the car and this serves as park. One thing to note when parking is when the engine is finally off, clutch in and shift into first if the car seems like it would want to roll back, and put the car into reverse if it seems like it would want to roll forward. For one additional step, there is a challenge of downshifting. This is used to bump down a gear and is used for slowing down the car without just using the brakes. This process is similar to upshifting, where you clutch in and shift into a lower gear instead of the higher gear. Just instead of clutching and shifting though, it's best to blip the throttle, and this increases the revs of the car so that the speed of the transmission can match the speed of the engine in the newly selected gear. This is a little bit more difficult to learn than the other parts, but it comes quickly too. That being said, for the very basics, it's not necessary, to be honest. Those are the very basics of driving a stick shift, starting in first, upshifting and downshifting, as well as stopping. There are additional things that are very important to learn in order to drive a stick shift, such as hill driving, but for now, these are the very basics and are a great starting point for learning how to drive stick. I hope you found this fun and not too frustrating, and if you have any questions, sound off in the comments and I'll reply back to you. Once you learn how to drive a stick shift, driving the automatic will feel strangely odd as you go to clutch in the car. I promise you this is a skill you won't regret learning, even if it takes getting over the hill of stalling out the car again, and again, in front of traffic, as I have done myself. Thanks so much for watching, and just remember not to stress too much about it.
Let's be wild and out, dude. Look at them though.